The morning they called the police on me, the lake looked like glass, not a ripple, not a whisper. That stillness made the sirens sound sharper when they finally turned down the gravel road. I stood there on my new shoreline, boots damp, coffee cooling in my hand, thinking, so this is how it starts. Not with a friendly handshake, not with a welcome to the neighborhood, but with flashing lights over a piece of water my father taught me to respect before I could even read. I bought this lake because of him. Not for fishing, not for showing off, but because my father always said water keeps a family together. Water remembers, he'd say, tying a lure with those old, steady hands. It keeps stories. He was a carpenter, humble, proud, and patient, who saved every dollar he could. When he passed, he left me 3 things: his flag, his old chipped coffee mug, and enough to finally buy a place that felt like ours. When I signed the deed, the attorney tapped the legal description and said, shoreline to shoreline, lake bed included. I just nodded, feeling that quiet pride only a son can understand. But the peace didn't last long. That first weekend, a line of pontoon boats crept into my cove like a polite invasion, all tied to a dock I'd never built. The thing stuck out from my shore like a finger pointing in my face. Fresh planks, freshly stained. Ending in a floating platform, branded with a HOA logo. A woman in a sun visor waved like she owned the sunrise. "We'll just be a minute," she said cheerfully. "This is our community, Doc." I told her gently, "Ma'am, this is my shoreline." She laughed. "That's adorable. We've used it for years." That night I sat at the kitchen table, tracing the lines of my deed with my finger, while the old farmhouse creaked around me. The property pins matched the survey exactly. The dock sat fully on my land, floating over my lake bed, my father used to say. Respect's measured by the inch, when folks think they can take a foot. I decided to start with inches. The next morning, I posted a sign on the path. Private property, no trespassing. Simple, firm. By noon, the visor lady was back, flanked by 2 board members like bodyguards. "You can't block community access," she snapped. "We've always launched here," I pointed to the sign. "You always launched here because no one told you no." That didn't go over well. A few days later, a letter showed up, thick paper, HOA, letterhead, full of words like easement and implied license. They demanded I remove all obstructions immediately. They wanted to scare me with official talk. Instead, I called the county clerk, the surveyor, and the lake management office. Each one said the same thing: if there's no recorded easement, it's yours. Period. That night, my anger hardened into resolve. At sunrise, I carried 4 clean cedar posts to the shoreline, drove them deep into my bank, looped a chain through the dock's base, and locked it tight. No one would trip. No one would drown. But no one would use my property without asking either. The backlash came quick. Anonymous notes under my truck wiper. "You're ruining a tradition. You'll regret this." One read. "We know who you are." I stared at that one while my coffee brewed, holding my father's chipped mug. Yes, I thought, you do. I'm the man who pays for what he owns. The man who'll talk first and stand firm after. So I posted a second notice, written plain and neighborly. Let's meet and find a solution. Buy an easement or move the dock. I'm open. My phone stayed silent. Then came the sirens. 2 deputies pulled up, calm but cautious, while the HOA president did all the shouting. She accused me of unlawful interference and theft of community property. I kept my voice even. "This is my deed," I said, handing them copies. "Here's the survey, the pins, and the county statement. There's no easement. The dock's on my bank. The chain's on my posts. You're welcome to walk with me and see for yourselves." The president crossed her arms and refused. But the deputies didn't. We walked through the leaves down to the bank. I pointed with my boot. "Pin 1. We followed the line to the second, then the third, Exactly where the survey said. The younger deputy nodded. Clean as it gets, he said. Looks like it's all yours. When we got back, the president's jaw was set tight. This isn't over, she hissed. I looked out over the water. I never thought it was. A week later came another letter, this one from their lawyer. Pages of whereas and heretofore threatening lawsuits for loss of community enjoyment. I replied with facts and courtesy, deed copy, dates, coordinates, photos. I ended it with one sentence my father would have liked. Long words hide short tempers. Then the cove went quiet. Boats hovered at a distance like gossipers on Sunday morning. Evenings were still again. I'd sit on the porch with coffee, listening to the soft lap of water on stone, feeling the tension melt into calm pride. Not arrogance, just peace. Then one afternoon an older man shuffled up my driveway, hat in hand. Name's Walt, he said. Been here since before the bylaws had a binder. He told me how the dock started decades ago. 2 pallets, a handshake, and a lonely old owner who didn't mind the neighbors using it now and then. No records. No payment. Just courtesy that turned into assumption over time. We forgot it wasn't ours, Walt admitted, eyes low. We forgot to ask. Something in me softened. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. We walked down to the water together. He ran his palm along the cedar post I'd driven in. Straight as a preacher's tie, he said. Then he nodded toward the far bend. Board's got a lot over there, to curves around. Never used it much 'cause it's rocky. I looked where he pointed. A rough shoreline, but workable. It could do, I said. If they stop pretending this one's theirs? Walt smiled. Sometimes folks need a clean ending before they can start right. The next board meeting was quiet. The president read my letter in that stiff tone people use when they're cornered by the truth. I spoke once, told them I'd welcome a written proposal for an easement or relocation. Then I sat back. Afterward, I heard Walt telling the others, you want a dock? Build it where your name's on the deed. Sometimes the simplest words hit hardest. 2 weeks later, I heard trucks rumbling down the road. A line of pickups heading toward that rocky bend. The HOA had hired a local crew and even asked for my surveyor's contact to make sure the lines were right this time. No more we've always used it. No more sirens they built through the weekend. Hammers echoing over the water like a small, hopeful sermon. I brought them coffee at sunrise. The foreman smiled. No hard feelings? I took a breath that felt like spring. None, I said. Just clear lines. When the last board was nailed, kids ran laughing down the new dock, splashing into the water. The HOA president stood nearby, clipboard in hand, looking older, quieter. She finally walked over. We should have checked the deed, she said softly. I nodded. Happens. She glanced toward my posts. Those staying? I smiled. For now. Reminders keep the peace. That evening, the lake was still again. A heron glided low over the water, like a memory tracing its way home. I sat on the porch steps, holding my father's old mug, and let the calm settle in. He'd been right all along. Respect the water. Respect your neighbor. And respect the lines that keep both of you honest. This fight was never about a dock. It was about dignity. About whether a man's word in the ink that records it still means something. Sometimes standing up for what's right means standing. Alone, until others remember what right looks like. Have you ever faced an HOA like this? Share your story below. I read every one. And if you believe some fights are worth having, hit subscribe and let's stand up together.